Real hot take over here, girl.
What?
Murder is the worst.
I mean, people are assholes.
Murder is the worst. I felt really sad about this one.
I know. Get yourself a friend like Myleik.
Yeah.
And you'll know what that means by the end of this.
Yes. Hi, Jillian Benzavalli.
Hi, Patrick Hines.
Oh, hi, fam. We love you so much. Hey, you know what I like to talk about sometimes?
What?
We do...
Your feelings. Your thoughts and your feelings.
All the time. That's why I made a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like, they put a microphone in front of my mouth and I'm going to talk about my feelings. No, over on the Patreon, we do drag bingo once a month.
That's right, we do.
We do it with the amazing Schwa. She's so incredible. It's just one of the things that you get. Steve sends out an email, you sign up, and then bada bing, bada boom, you could win one of these incredible prize packs. And Steve's like, right now, he's preparing for the next one. He's been shopping all day.
Good for him.
Yeah, he really loves
weather.
it.
And also, it's $5 and above. So
yeah, for everybody at the 5 and above, it's also at that level where you get the over 500 full ad-free bonus episodes. Do you know that between the Pates and the regs, we have 800 eps, give or take? Easy.
Things to listen to and download.
Yeah.
800 wouldn't surprise me by any stretch.
You want to know something else crazy?
What?
Episode 2 of Patreon is our coverage of the documentary The Queen of Versailles, which is now a new musical starring Kristen Chenoweth.
The one and only.
I know.
The one and only.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm so excited.
Do you have plans to?
I was going to see it in Boston when I went for the meetup, but then things got too crazy and we didn't get to go.
Oh.
We didn't get to go to the show. We went to the meetup.
Right.
But it was supposed to come in this season, but it's not coming until 2025.
What the hell is that
I
about?
don't know. Well, I actually think I know what it's about.
Someone get Ms. Chenoweth on the phone.
I think it was her doing. It's a very crowded season full of lots of big name women and lots of
fair
shows.
enough.
So I think that
Right,
Kristen
or is that
wants,
not fair enough? I don't know.
Whatever. I think she wants to stand out in her season.
Okay.
Anyway, that's
All right.
just my guess.
Okay.
A little theater drama to get us started.
Wow, okay.
What are we talking about today, girl?
So, welcome to one of our bonus episodes that we just drop on the regular feed for you. So, this is an episode of that show, How I Caught My Killer, which is very victim centric.
Yes.
And it's season 1, episode 2.
15-year-old Candice Parchment was obsessed with her diary. It held her dreams, her secrets.
She wanted to be a writer. She would always be documenting her life, her thoughts, what she wanted to do.
But on April 28, 2010, Candice goes missing. Everyone at her high school in shock.
There's so many rumors, speculation that came from nothing.
Weeks go by, months. Then,
The detectives knocked on the door and told me they found the human remains of Candice.
but a voice from the grave.
She said, I found Candice's diary.
And the truth is awful.
So it's 2010. We're in Forest Park, Georgia, which is a little town just outside of Atlanta. We meet Myleik, and he's the very close friend of our victim, Candice.
Yeah, Candice Parchment. She's 15 years old. She's a high school student. And yeah, Myleik is really going to walk us through this, which is amazing of him to do because it's really horrible. And thank you for being here, Myleik.
You know, I do have a question about this because Candice's mom isn't here. And I always wonder about that. Like, was it one of those things, and we don't know the answer to this, but was it one of those things where she was like, go ahead and do the story. I don't want to participate because it's too hard.
I would think that's a safe bet.
I hope that that's how this goes.
Yeah, I hope so too, because this series is very much like the family is telling the story, moms and siblings and best friends. So I'm hoping that that's why. And I'm surprised that doesn't happen more, to be honest. We say that a lot. Like, how can a mom sit here and say that? How can a family member or any family member, you know, like a sister, anyone say this? And even I say about Myleik, like, Myleik, how are you recounting all of this?
Because in some ways, the trauma of losing a friend at that young age is as traumatic as like losing a family member.
Yeah. And Myleik says,
The last time I remember seeing Candice, she had a bag of hot Cheetos. She had put a few of them in my mouth. She had fed me. We were in school. Everything was happy. That was the last day I've ever seen her.
she had her hot Cheetos. She was like feeding him some, giving him some. Everything was happy.
The hot Cheetos of it all.
Yeah, I know.
Look, I'm a Cheeto girly, no question.
Sure.
But I'm not doing the Flamin' Hots. I can't do it. They're not joking. They're very hot.
They're not joking.
No.
They're very hot.
You have to be tough like Myleik to be able to eat the Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
And Candice.
So we meet Captain Richard Gandy. He tells us it was April 28th, 2010. Candice's mother calls the police like within a couple hours.
Right away. Because Candice's friends and family are super worried. She's not answering anyone. They're texting, Facebooking, leaving leaving comments on her socials, like trying every way you can try to get in touch with someone in 2010. That's what they're doing.
And she's just like not getting back. She's just vanished. And, we get a little bit of the backstory about how just loved Candice was. They call her clever. She had bright eyes, a big smile. She was a very beautiful young girl. She got a lot of attention. And then the narrator says, like, and maybe she was the kind of girl that would make some other girls jealous.
Yeah. We see a post from Myleik saying, Candice, I'm worried about you. Please call me.
I know. I mean, that's so crazy, like in 2010, how social media, because now it's like, I know.
So Candice and her family are from Jamaica, and they recently moved to Georgia. And she loved writing. She was really interested in journalism and poetry and music. And now Myleik is a musician.
Yes.
And they were instantly friends. They were like fans of each other's work, and they had that creative vibe, and they were just like, they were buds.
And I just love that because it was like, he really talks about her as like a big champion for him. Like, he seems very motivated. He says he recorded music every day. He was really passionate about it. And she just like, she was like a support for him.
Yeah. And Candice was always writing in her diary. Because remember, the series is How I Caught My Killer. So it's about what did our victim do in their life that helped us get to this point. And Candice was writing about her day, journaling, really documenting her life.
She said she wrote in her journal, like, my family came to America for opportunity and I'm going to make something of myself and take care of my family.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Though it really is the whole, like, after the fact, reading their thoughts in their journal after they're gone is very, I don't know what the word for what that feeling is, but it's very, like, it's very sad. It's almost a little spooky.
It feels like we shouldn't, like, it feels like a violation to me, where it's like, I shouldn't really be reading this.
But also a way for their thoughts to live on.
Like she's speaking to you.
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Now, the cops immediately assume this isn't a big deal.
The police officers told Candice's family, friends, girls like this always do things like this. The girls like this always run away. Like, girls like what? What do you mean, girls like what? I would love to know. Feel free to contact me and let me know what that meant.
Girls like this, girls like what? Feel free to contact me and let me know what that means.
I would love to honestly know what he does mean. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we infer that it's like...
Girls like this always run away. Is it a race thing?
Right.
Is it the fact that she's a teenager? Is it... I mean, because we hear a lot,
this always
she'll come
happens,
back.
Especially people of color. It's always put on, like, they're just a runaway. Like, because the implication is they're just trash. You know what I mean? Like...
Or don't worry, she'll come back. It's like, well, she's never once done this and she's not answering anyone and she didn't say, oh, I'll be right back. Like, so I just love Myleik because that was such a, like, he's all of us in that moment. Because how many times do we watch things like this? We, meaning anyone, any viewer of these things, it's like, what do you mean? What girls like what? What are you trying to say?
To me, it always
poets?
comes... Right, exactly.
Poets do this?
People
like, what
who
are
are
you
good
trying
to their
say?
friends.
Yeah.
It just feels like they don't want to go looking for her.
Of course.
You know, and it's like, then why did you get out of bed and go to work today?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've been asking that for 800 episodes.
Yeah. Literally 800 episodes.
Just about 800 episodes. So now, this is where I'm like, oh no.
I know.
The day Candice goes missing, her mother gets a text from her that says, I'm in Tennessee, I'm okay. Now, her friends and family, no one believes it. Everyone knows this isn't her.
Absolutely not.
Because she's 15 years old. She didn't take anything with her. She didn't take her clothes. She didn't take anything. She has no money. Like, this is impossible and stupid, and no one is falling for it.
And also, we learned it takes a month for the investigators to look into these texts.
35 days.
Captain Gandy says,
on June 2nd, 2010, a detective files a subpoena request for Candice's phone records, and we never did hear anything back from the phone company.
We never heard back from the phone company, to which I said, what? That is literally not how subpoenas work.
Yeah.
They have to give it to you. You have to just go take it because you have the subpoena that says it's yours.
He's like, a lot of red tape and roadblocks, and we know things take time.
Yeah.
We understand. But this is where we also learn, like, meanwhile, other cases are coming in, averaging 30 to 40 runaways a month. And I'm saying, wait a second.
Yeah.
Runaway reports or missing persons cases?
The way that he says it, I'm like, show me the receipts on this, because this just sounds like a big excuse
30
caboose.
to 40 girls are running away a month?
Because what he says is, like, it takes a lot of time and money to, like, find these kids and clear these cases. Because we do
sorry,
know...
that's your job.
Exactly. But we do know that the majority of kids that are declared missing are found and returned to their families. But it is kind of like, I have the question of, like, why did Gandy sit down for this interview?
Seems like a lot of excuses
You guys
to me.
did it all wrong.
Yeah.
You're just here to give excuses. You don't come off looking good in this thing.
I'd rather talk to Myleik.
Exactly.
So Candice has been missing for 7 months, and then they get the phone call that Candice's body has been found just a few hundred yards from her home.
Which makes no sense to me. Because her body is found under a mattress in the woods on a well-traveled path. They call it the cut, as like the cut through, because people use it every single day. And by the way, she would take that path to go home.
Right.
So did nobody look for her?
I don't know.
Like, was there no search party? She was right there.
It's
been 7 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Detective Ashley Melvin is here, and this is his very first case. He was the new kid.
I was a homicide detective in Clayton County. In November 2010, I was the new kid. Captain said, "Hey, rookie, you're up." Found a body in the woods.
Okay, rookie, you're up. They found a body in the woods. And he's very honest with us about how nervous he was when he was like heading. Oh, I don't imagine that ever goes away.
I don't think so. I mean, or at least whatever the adrenaline is of like, oh my God, I'm going to be faced with this thing. And like, it's up to me to get justice or get closure. Like it's, that's his job.
And he describes like he gets to the spot. He like parks the car next to the dumpster. He walks down the path. He gets to the spot. He looks down and he sees a skeleton.
Yeah.
And it's like nothing can prepare you when you're a homicide detective for your first one. Because he's saying like, I'd never seen a skeleton before.
Yeah, but because she'd been there for 7 months.
Yeah.
So he's saying like just for that to be the first case. And it really inspired him to actually do the right thing. So because he says like there were no clothes, no ID, nothing to signify who this person was except one earring and her jacket and a shirt that said "Stay Fresh" on it.
Yeah.
And so they are able to ID her using social media based on her last post, and that they can prove that was her jacket, that was her t-shirt, those were her earrings.
Yeah. And it's like we get that really sad moment of the news reaches the friends and family. And Malik is just describing, he just can't believe it. Like he cannot believe that this girl that he just adored was murdered and then stuffed under a mattress.
Yeah, they were just talking about each other's writing. They were just sharing
She was
hot
just
Cheetos
feeding him hot
together.
Cheetos. Yeah.
Like, and we see that a lot where it's like, well, it must make you feel insane.
Yeah.
Because it makes you feel like your reality is not the truth.
Yeah.
The most fucked up part is that both of these things are true. Like, you did just see her. And now
and she's been missing for 7 months. Yeah.
Like, it's just all of these, because it makes it feel, well, no, that can't be, because the last time I saw her, she was happy and in school. So I don't know how you're telling me that she went from there to this place and she's been there for 7 months. Like, it doesn't make sense. It makes you crazy.
And she was right there.
She was right there.
Right there the whole time. And then Ashley has to tell us about going to tell Candice's mother.
I made a promise to Candice's mother. I said, I don't know what took place, but I'm going to find out what happened. And if someone did it to your daughter, I'm going to find out who did it.
I was going to find out who did it.
Yeah. And they're like asking everyone in the neighborhood. They're not getting anything. They go to her high school. They're asking her friends. And now Malik is a person of interest because they were so close.
Yeah. And the one thing we have to point out is that the medical examiner ruled the death as a stab wound to the chest. Like that's how she died. And the manner of death was homicide.
Yeah. And so like rumors are everywhere, of course, because there's no information. Nobody knows anything. And so the rumors are like, well, she texted, she's in Tennessee. Oh, she ran off with a trucker. Like none of this is true. None of this even makes sense for the person Candice was.
The only rumor that is true, apparently, is that there was a serial killer on the loose in the area.
Well, because, okay, so let's go back. Monica Ambrose went missing in October of 2010, just outside Atlanta. Her body was found 10 days later in an abandoned building.
She was 17 and she'd been stabbed. She'd been stabbed in the chest.
So the question is like, are these cases connected?
Right.
So we know who did this to Monica.
Right.
His name is Artemio Hernandez. And the question is like, did he kill both girls? Was Candice his first victim?
He definitely killed Monica in a very similar way to how Candice died. So did he kill both of them?
And now the cops can talk to this guy because he's in prison for assaulting and killing Monica. And this guy admits it. There's no question, did he kill Monica? Like, we know that.
And
for sure.
Ashley, the cop, is saying he's the kind of guy that likes to talk. Like, if we present him with a case and ask him if he did it, and he's going to say yes if he actually did do it.
So 16 months later, they speak to Monica's killer.
Yeah.
Detective Ashley is so focused. He's so ready. And he asks all these questions.
I laid it out. Like, this is what we got. Did you kill this girl? I showed Hernandez pictures of Candice. And he looked at the pictures and he said, I'd never seen her before. He said, I didn't do it. I did the other ones. I didn't do that one.
I definitely killed Monica, but like not Candice. And Detective Ashley just really hits home. Like, this guy has nothing to lose. I know he's telling the truth. He's told me a lot of shitty things and a lot of horrible things that I know are true.
Yeah.
He did not kill Candice.
Which is like, now we're back to square one, because the thing about this case is that like there's never any answers. Like every time they talk to anybody, they hit a dead end. Nobody knows anything. Nobody saw anything.
Yeah.
So he really thought like this looks good. Like it really could be this guy, but now we're back to square one.
Right. Now, there's this new suspect, this other piece of shit, Trey Jenkins, convicted rapist. He knew Candice, and I'm like, let's pick this son of a bitch up.
And so like before all of this...
Before Candice went missing, detectives learned that Trey brought 2 young girls, one 17, one 18, to his house and raped them.
He was convicted of bringing 2 girls, a 17 and an 18-year-old, to a house, getting them drunk and raping them.
Yeah, he's a convicted rapist.
Yeah.
He's an absolute piece of shit. The world would be better without him.
Yeah.
So they, of course, want to talk to him because he knew Candice. He's like from the area.
And we don't know how. Like, we don't get the details on what their relationship was, but they knew each other.
Yeah, and then we also don't really know why, but it turns out that this piece of shit did not kill Candice. He is still absolute confirmed garbage.
They can prove that he was not in the area on the night that she went missing.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not this guy. But it's like, what does he know? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like all these bad guys, like don't they all talk to each other? Like don't you know what I mean?
Talk to each other at the meetings. I wish it was that easy.
Yeah.
But so we're back to square one yet again. It's been almost a year. It's been almost a year.
The time just ticks by. But my mind is blown that like, because you hear in these cases early on, they put together a search and they go, look, if they had done a search for this girl, they would have found her.
Yeah, I don't know the connection there. We don't get, unfortunately, any information about why she was found just a few hundred yards away.
But we will find out eventually that she was there the whole time.
The whole time.
She wasn't moved there later.
So I don't know how this happened. I really don't. So it's October 18th, 2011. Detective Ashley is on his way out the door. He's starting his day. And he gets this frantic phone call. And it's Candice's mom. And she's like, I need to talk to you. Like, I have something huge.
Yep.
She found Candice's diary.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I just got like...
I know.
Oh my God.
And she says, I have to give it to you.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yeah.
Now, Detective Ashley starts reading the diary, and he tells us about something that happened to Candice in January of 2010 that is a frightening experience.
And she literally titles the journal entry, A Frightening Experience. And she says she snuck out of the house to go meet with 2 friends. Both were guys. She said, I was walking down the road. It was dark. There was an abandoned house where one of my schoolmates used to live. Jermaine and Marche, these are the 2 friends that she's going to meet. She said they set me up to go to the house. So she goes into the house. There's no lights. The only light she has is her phone. She's like walking around looking for her friends, and her friend Jermaine
hit me with a rake in the head.
At first I thought it was an accident. It wasn't.
Marche was blocking the door, so I couldn't get out. I tried to make up excuses, but they didn't care.
Marche is blocking the door so she couldn't leave.
Oh my God.
Jermaine grabs her. He's choking her. She's grasping for air, begging to be let go. They're trying to get her pants off. Her phone rings, and now they're trying to get the phone out of her hand.
Yeah.
But they aren't able to. And then somehow, maybe she's able to communicate with this person on the phone. But like minutes later, a car shows up in front of the house, and they let her go.
Yeah, and everything sort of breaks up, and she's been assaulted and she's terrified, and they beg her not to say anything. And I'm like, who the fuck are Jermaine and Marche? Like, well, let's go pick their asses up too. What's going on?
She calls them her friends. Like, these are guys who like worked really hard to get her trusted, lure her to her house to rape her.
I mean, not just my personal experience, but the statistics of rape and assault are the people you know.
I mean, it's just it's mind blowing.
My experiences were my friends.
I mean, that is
like that's just a fact. I mean,
it's just crazy.
So Myleik knows Marche, and Myleik is here to tell us about this guy because Myleik is like, look, we met in 2008.
Yeah.
And Marche liked to make and produce music. He was making beats and instrumentals. And Myleik was a singer and a rapper. And like, of course, this is a match made in heaven. Someone who's writing and rapping and making music always needs beats, always needs instrumentals. Yeah. So that's how they knew each other.
And Myleik says, I really trusted this guy. So Detective Ashley goes to the jail system.
And I found a name, Marche Hickman. He's in jail for burglary. He'd been there for several months, but during the time that Candice disappeared, he was free. He was roaming around. And he lives on Sylvia Drive, right in the area where we found Candice's body.
when he's not in prison, he lives right near where Candice's body was found.
On Sylvia Drive, which is right where that pathway is where her body was found, like just off the path.
So Detective Ashley hightails it over there, like Detective Ashley shaped hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Like he's like, oh my God, I got to talk to this guy. So this is what Marche says. He says, I saw Candice walking home, not that he lured her to the house, but that he saw her walking home. This like creepy Hispanic guy, his words, were following her. It was dark. And then he's like, and then she went into the woods with this creepy guy. And then I guess she went home. According to Marche, didn't hear anything, didn't see anything, didn't try to help Candice.
And Ashley says that, like, why on earth would you see her going into the woods with this creepy guy and just let her go?
And then just assume, like, well, all's well that ends well. I guess she'll get home. Like, Marche, you're a piece of shit for that alone.
But lucky break for Marche.
Of course it didn't happen, but I'm just saying, even your cover-up story shows that you're a piece of shit.
The funny thing is, though, I was just going to say the lucky break for Marche is that this guy, that Hispanic guy that he's describing, weirdly fits the description of that guy, Artemio Hernandez.
Yeah, who killed Monica.
So it's sort of like, for just a second, it's like, wait, is Marche telling the truth here?
Right.
And it's like, if he was telling the truth, you're still a piece of shit for, like, you see what you describe as a creepy man following her into the woods and you just let her go.
Like, okay. And so the cops, now it was Marche and Jermaine who did this to Candice. So the cops are like, okay, hold that thought, Marche. Let's talk to Jermaine. Jermaine throws Marche under the bus in 2 seconds. His butt isn't even in the chair in the interrogation room before he's like...
First thing that comes out of Jermaine's mouth was, man, Marche killed that girl. How you know he killed her? Because, man, Marche is crazy.
Marche did it. He's crazy. I'm scared of him. He did all of it.
But, like, you were still at the sexual assault, Jermaine.
I believe Candice in her diary.
And I'm sorry, like, this is where, like,
you hit her with the rake, you piece of shit.
Just gonna say, this is where the cops start not asking the right questions.
Right.
Because it's like, wait a second, at the sexual assault, Marche was guarding the door. You hit her in the face with the rake, got on top of her, and we're trying to get her clothes off.
Yes.
Who's scared of who?
Yeah, no.
Who's the actual bad guy here?
No, you're all bad guys.
Yeah.
Except for Candice. And Miley.
Yeah.
And Detective Ashley's pretty good too.
Monica's great.
So Jermaine confirms a lot of what Candice wrote in her diary. So while he's saying, like, Marche made me do it, he's the scary one, a lot of the stuff, and they don't know about the diary.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that Jermaine is saying, they're like, okay, like, of course Candice was telling the truth. You don't lie to your fucking diary.
Of course.
Then Jermaine says, because, like, they remember after they did this horrible, traumatic thing to Candice and assaulted her, and then somehow everyone scatters because of the headlights with the car.
Yeah.
Like, if that didn't happen, I don't know if we'd be here. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course.
Horrible things would have happened. So they were begging Candice, don't say anything, don't tell anybody. So Jermaine is now telling the police.
After the sexual assault, Marche started freaking out, thinking that Candice was gonna tell people. Jermaine told us Marche typed on his phone, hey, we should go kill Candice.
We should kill Candice. And I'm like, can we confirm this?
I had the same question because we see the text from Candice's phone saying I'm in Tennessee, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But we don't see the text from Marche's phone saying we need to go kill Candice.
Right. But the cops have a different way of trying to confirm this.
Yeah.
The cops tell Marche.
We found her body and we found some DNA on her body. And when you were locked up, they got your DNA. You remember that?
We can actually make him think that we already have his DNA.
We can actually make him think we have his DNA. And I'm like, right, because you're lying to him.
And they're legally allowed to do this.
And because cops are allowed to lie. But the cop here doesn't want to say it in those words.
Uh-huh.
We have, we can actually, we can make him think
believe.
by lying to him.
By lying,
now,
exactly.
this guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But just call it what it is. You lied to him.
Yeah.
And cops are allowed to do that, everyone.
Cops are allowed to do that.
They are allowed to lie to you. So, like, are we happy that we finally got a confession out of this piece of shit and we can get some justice for Candice and her family? Sure.
But when they're lying to Brendan Dassey and getting a confession out of him in the same way.
And if they're not, the thing that really just pisses me off about this on so many levels, but, like, just say you lied to him.
Yeah.
Don't try to make it seem like you did a special cop thing to make him believe you did a little Men in Black, like, oh, you forgot it.
Right.
Oh, this. Just say we lied to him.
It's so complicated because, but this is why everybody needs an attorney. You know what I mean? Because it's like, in this instance, it worked out in our favor because
we hate these guys.
We hate them and they definitely did it. But I'm also like, I don't know. I would love to know a little bit more about the crime scene. Was there DNA on her body? Like, because we know that they actually do have Marche's DNA because he went to prison and they took his DNA.
Who texted and when was the text happening?
Yeah.
Obviously, she's not in Tennessee. So, like,
yeah, exactly.
Let's get to the bottom of that. I know it's hard. It's 5:01. You want to go home and have your pot roast, but also just be I mean, the irony of what I'm going to... Just be honest. And just say, well, we lied to him.
Yeah.
Because we wanted him to admit this. Like, there are cops out there, I think, that would say that. Well, of course we lied.
Well,
like, of course we said that.
Wait, like, if you're a responsible cop who's going to only do this under the right circumstances...
When you know you have a rapist and murderer on your hands, like, of course. But just a reminder to everyone, cops will lie to you.
Yes.
And they will lie to you for whatever reason they want.
Tell your kids that, because even if you think your kids would never have any reason to have any interaction with the cops, the kids need to know that.
Because they lie to you.
Hey, I've already told Daisy that.
Yes.
We already had that conversation.
Of course. And they lie to you even when they don't know the answer.
Yeah.
They will lie. So they don't know what Marche has.
Uh-huh.
They don't know what the truth. They're hoping that if I say the right lie, they'll confess.
Well,
but they will lie to you about things where you can't, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
They'll lie to you about anything and everything, hoping that you'll lead them to something that they want. They don't even lie to you with an end game in mind.
What ends up happening is in the instance when you are innocent and they're telling you something and you think the cop is telling you the truth, now your brain is going into, well, I have to explain that away somehow. So now you're making up a story. Now you're lying to the cop.
Never talk to the police ever, ever.
Yeah.
Ever. You don't have to speak to them and they can legally lie to you.
Yeah.
End of soapbox speech. Get a lawyer. I'll say it every time. But again, we hate this guy. I'm just saying in general, it always makes me think of the ways where like, oh, it wasn't where it's like, how lucky for us he finally confessed. Like a lot of times that's not how those stories
agree.
end.
So the truth comes out. Marche tells the story. He admits he saw Candice walking home. He followed Candice into the woods. He said she was walking through the cut, which is the path. And he says, I just put my arm around her.
I put my arm around her like this, and I was just holding her and hugging her.
We have him macked out where he putting his arm around the neck and actually, lifting her feet completely off the ground.
He put his arm around her neck from behind and like lifted her off the ground.
They make him do a reenactment where like he's choking her.
Marche, I think, wants it to seem like I was just joking around and hugging her and like sort of like lifting her up a little bit, but no.
Her cause of death was a stab wound to the chest.
Yes.
And they never even ask him about it.
Yeah.
Because they get him to admit that he was the guy and only the guy that caused her death. But we get he says that, he admits to it, but like he's saying he strangled her. We know she was stabbed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
They never ask him about it.
They never ask about it. And he says he would go back to her body over months and months and months.
And that's how we know the body was there the whole time. And I'm sorry, this community failed her.
Yeah.
Like the community and the police, they failed her. They failed her mother.
Yep.
They failed her friends and family. Nobody organized a search. And I think to me that is just so indicative of the fact that the powers that be just didn't care about this kid.
Yeah.
If they had spent the resources just to put together a small search committee to go look for her, they would have found her in 5 minutes.
Yeah. But it does make you think, right? Okay, so you don't have DNA, and we don't hear anything about the stabbing. Like, don't make me sit here about this rapist and be like, wait.
Because the truth of the matter is they're getting him to tell them how he killed her, but we know how she died.
Yeah.
And how he's saying he killed her is not how she died. And I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, like, if he's admitting to it, why isn't he telling the real story?
Yeah. But here's where I'm like, oh, you fucker, you totally did it.
Yeah.
Because Marche writes a letter of apology to Candice's mother.
Please forgive me. I'm glad this is off my chest. Candice is forever missed. This guy can't be serious. Man, me, yeah, can you forgive me? It's not about you. This man, that's ridiculous right here, man. The sick, twisted individual.
My leak is all of us, because he's like, is this guy serious?
I know.
It's all me. And he goes, he's a sick individual.
In the letter, he writes, I'm glad to get this off my chest. Oh, are you?
Are you? A tragic accident?
The chest you stabbed her in? Right, because we're back to knowing that she was stabbed. And that is not an act. Like, you can't...
And we have her entire diary, because we know what you did a few days before this, you asshole.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah.
And we know that you begged her not to tell anyone, and you thought, oh my God, maybe she will, which she should have. And if she never did, that's also fine.
Yeah.
But there's a reason you killed her.
Right.
Ugh.
Right. So it's March 11th, 2012. Marche Hickman is indicted for the murder of Candice Parchment. They're going into the trial and they're pointing out they have Candice's diary for the trial, and this is major. And we meet reporter Marcus Garner, and he was reporting for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and he's just describing hearing the diary read in court. And he just says,
Candice's words crying out from the dark from so many months before, finding justice for herself and for her death. I've been in a lot of courtrooms, and that was a moment that it kind of sent a chill up my bones.
And that was the moment that like sent the chills up his bones, he said.
I mean, it's really, and just to think, it makes me so sad because that was Candice's way of trying to like work through what happened to her.
Yes.
And so she didn't realize at the time, but she was really helping herself in so many ways. But it's hard to even think the words. And so for her to write them down and document it in that way, I think is like so powerful and moving. And it just makes me really sad to think about what it was like for her to sit in her room
and write it out.
And write it out. And like, was there music on, or was she like, did someone knock on her door and interrupt her? And then she got scared that like, did she ever think about someone reading it? And maybe did she write it down for someone to read it one day? Like, or was she writing it down? It just like, there's a lot to that. And I just like, I'm thinking about her in that moment, writing in her room.
Yeah.
And like
it's
telling
very,
her
very sad.
her own story. It's like,
yeah. And not necessarily feeling like she could actually tell anybody.
Right. Or not wanting to, and that, but like wanting it to be told somehow, some way, sometime.
Right. Because we know she was a writer. You know what I mean? Like she's like processing what she went through by doing the thing that she loves to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And she did it in a way that ended up really like helping her in some way, or getting justice in some way.
Yeah. And like, that's the whole thing about like How I Caught My Killer. Like without that journal entry, we wouldn't have gotten these. Truly, the police had no leads. The names Jermaine and Marche were nowhere.
Candice.
They came from Candice.
Yeah.
So in the end, Marche is found guilty of murder and attempted rape. He gets life in prison without parole plus 20 years. Jermaine pleads guilty to attempted rape and is sentenced to 10 years.
Yeah. And, you know, like we just get a lot of people saying how amazing Candice is, and that Detective Ashley says like, yeah, you know, I did what I did, but Candice definitely solved her own murder from beyond the grave.
Yeah.
But we end with Myleik, and I think it's so important to hit home on this because he says like, if you remember, nobody took this seriously. The cops were like, oh, girls like her run away. Girls like who? What, poets? What, people with great smiles? What, like all of these things about Candice? And he says,
it would have just been another cold case had it not been for the resilience and for the brilliance of our dear friend Candice Parchment.
From beginning to end, he's 100% right that no one really cared. That people, you know, the cops were like, oh, this happens all the time. It doesn't matter. It's still something that should be taken seriously. And I just thought like the resilience and the brilliance of our dear friend Candice Parchment. I was like, oh my God,
and just Myleik's like power, like Myleik's ability to be here and tell the story as like the spokesperson for Candice.
Yeah.
You know, like that also, he also suffered the trauma of this loss.
And also don't forget Myleik too. Like additionally, he was also seen as a suspect.
Right.
So in this moment of learning about this tragedy with his friend, or that she's missing, or all of that, like the cops were looking at him for a time too, and I don't think they were very nice to him about it. So that dealing with like, just imagine sitting there in this like fluorescent light room that's like cold, and you're just like, I'm sorry, I haven't stopped crying over my friend, and you're saying what to me?
You know, the thing too that really hit me was that like the cops never went back for the phone records. You know what I mean? Normally in these, it's like, oh, a month went by and we got the phone. They just never, like this. The police work on this is so sloppy.
Yeah. I mean,
yet the cop is here to talk about it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. We have ways of telling him that the DNA was there. It's called a lie, bro.
Know. And like Ashley is one thing, but the other cop who like was the first one to get the call.
Yeah, the captain.
Yes, who never got the phone records and who didn't organize a search party. And you know what I mean? It's like, oh my God.
And look, maybe they did go to the phone records and it didn't matter anymore because we had the confession. Maybe not. I would hope that a jury saw that.
Yeah.
I would hope.
Yeah.
But we don't know about that necessarily, but I don't know. Anyway, like I said at the top, find yourself a friend like Myleik. Myleik, you're an excellent friend. For sure.
Yes. Hero bell for you, Myleik.
Hero bell, Myleik.
Oh, girl, we did. What is it called?
So this is one of our bonus episodes. This is the second episode of the first season of that show called How I Caught My Killer, but it's about the murder of Candice Parchment.
Fam, we love you so much. Hey, join the Facebook group if you want to hang out. I like to go in there in between episodes and see people just like chatting and talking. And you know what I mean?
I talked about my summer ween, how I was watching all these horror movies. And there's like, I have so many more suggestions and things to add to my list. Because
like what?
Someone commented and we were talking about Hereditary and Midsommar. And then I was like, does anyone have another horror movie with like Hereditary vibes? And now I have this whole list of things to watch.
Oh my
and they were
God.
like, if you want a series, do this. I was like, I'm thinking about starting Midnight Mass. And everyone's like, oh my God, you should watch it. It's so good. So it's just like random things. And when we were when we had our fish episode, when we were a fishing podcast, when I was like, Fisher people who are women, show yourselves. They're all in the group now.
Really? We have Fisher women?
We have Fisher women. And so just things like that. Like if you feel seen and heard in the app, you kind of join the party.
This is what we're talking about when we're saying, it's not just me every week like saying like join the Facebook group for no reason. This is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's a community. We're family. We're friends. It's so much fun.
You're finding each other.
What are we doing next, girl?
Okay, so because this is a bonus episode coming out on Thursday, tomorrow on the Patreon on Friday, you get Ashley Madison episode 2.
Yeah. Oh, look, we were screaming in that one.
Right, smack in the middle of it, that Ashley Madison drama. And then next Tuesday's regular ep is Broken Hearts, which is going to be, it's a very, very tough one. It was a tough recording, but again, in a very highly requested
ep. Yeah. All right, well, stay tuned for the trailer for Broken Hearts, and we love you, fam.
Yeah, enjoy that Ashley Madison.
It's
going to be
if you
crazy.
need to like decompress, just go listen to us scream about Ashley Madison on the page.
Sometimes people listen to like sad songs when they want to cry. If you want to feel angry, listen to Ashley Madison episode 2.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.
What caused a family to drive over a cliff to their death? That's the question multiple agencies from California to Washington are investigating.
This was not a normal traffic accident from the very onset, and it continued to be anything other than normal.
I know, how can I help you?
Yeah, there's some kids that I feel is being highly abused.
You have 2 sets of children not tracking in terms of their normal development. Why do they all have the same condition?
Abigail, we mentioned her mom gave her an owie.
Devante, he was saying our moms, they're punishing us, they're depriving us of food.
Eventually, Jen and Sarah learned the obvious lesson: remove the children from school.
Jen seemed to be this super mom, this champion of racial reconciliation.
But in this case, when you start putting the totality of everything together, something's rotten here.
How can we be so close to something so awful and not even know?
Goodbye.